It's Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Temple Ashaju. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. It's great to have with us on the show this morning Ali Kansaju, who joins us from Nairobi, Kenya, and Bosin Amofaye, Executive Editor here at Frontier Africa Reports. We will begin with the markets, where Nigeria was down yesterday some 92 basis points. The BRVM Stock Exchange in Ivory Coast was positive by 0.50%, maintaining a 152 psychological line there. 10,512.84 is the position for the Egyptian Stock Exchange based in Cairo, was positive by 45 basis points, while Nairobi Stock Exchange went lower by 22 basis points midweek. Johannesburg Stock Exchange was really positive, got some 1.77% high yesterday. Notable is the contribution of MTN yesterday. We'll find out how that's affected or revved up the position of the markets, the index of the markets yesterday. Let's now begin with the Eastern African markets headline, where Jubilee Holdings complete sale of 66% insurance business to Allianz. Kenya's insurtech startup Lamitech raises $1.8 million seed funding. April markets, we've got MSE positive by more than 4%, USE, Uganda Stock Exchange, 4.4%, and you have KNSE positive by 2.5%. Merj Exchange got limited, lists new 205,717 shares to buy new investments. France's Public Development Bank is official partner to First Basketball Africa League, which holds on May the 16th. We've got quite a number of markets data here to present to Ali to help us understand this morning. You have the April markets indices there and their movements.
Yes, thank you, Temple. I think, the frontier indices were a bit slow to join the party that started off in New York at the Dow Jones, which has been hitting record highs. And I think in the last month, we've seen our markets start to firm up. Interestingly, the best performing equity markets in sub-Saharan Africa are South Africa and Ghana. Both of those have significantly outperformed everybody else. But, 4.5%, Nairobi Stock Exchange still lagging. But I think investors have finally getting some respite in what was a very torrid 2020 for investors. Now to turn to Jubilee Holdings. Jubilee is capitalized, market cap is about $200 million. It's probably the oldest insurance company here in the region. It's a regional player. And at the back end of last year, they made an announcement that they were going to separate the general insurance business, and Allianz was going to take a 2/3 majority stake, and they would retain a 1/3 stake in that business. And this is the completion of that transaction. I think it's a very smart piece of business. It gives Jubilee access to this global platform that Allianz has, oodles of capital, balance sheet, again, that Allianz has, and gives them the ability to transact in absolutely every corner of the insurance spectrum. So I think it's a win-win and a significant development. And we've seen the share price start to firm up, but I think there's plenty more room for Jubilee to outperform as the market prices in. It's trading at a price earnings ratio, for example, of less than 5. To me, that looks very inexpensive. At the other end of the spectrum is your headline of insurtech startup Lamitech raising $1.8 million of seed funding. There's a lot of money that's coming into this sort of a niche of digital-based delivery of insurance products across the phone, and then innovative insurance products like, smallholder farmers, insuring them against the drought and that kind of thing. And so it's quite interesting what we're seeing in the sector, very underpenetrated, around 2.5–3%, big opportunity. We've also seen other big players come in and take stakes in small insurance companies. Prudential was one, I think, last year, not too long ago. And then we've had other private equity players come in and come out reasonably frequently. But it's an interesting sector, I've got to say. Merj Exchange listing more shares. Interesting, that's the Seychelles, I believe. As you know, everyone's attention was caught yesterday because Seychelles has vaccinated the most of its population, about 60%. Of course, the population is about 100,000. It's the smallest country in terms of numbers in Africa. But they've had a surge in infections, and a lot of attention was taken there. But, you know, the Merj Exchange is an interesting prospect. It's a small exchange, but it's probably the most innovative on the continent. They're always looking, they're the first ones to get on board. They've been looking at cryptocurrency, they've been looking at all that space, and they're worth keeping an eye on because, you know, I tend to find the smaller guys are much more nimble, more hardworking than the bigger guys who sit on their laurels and think everybody's going to knock on their door, and eventually they realize nobody is, and then they start to worry. And then finally, your story, France's Public Development Bank, official partner to First Basketball Africa League. There's a real effort to stimulate the basketball area. The whole sports business locally is gaining momentum. I think, you know, people understand we don't have to send all our best talent abroad. We could hopefully keep them at home and start to generate more interest, more bums on seats, and really get it going here. And I think basketball has been a genuine effort to do that. Mrs. Jordan, Michael Jordan's mother, has been a big driver behind this, and you're seeing it now come to fruition in basketball.
Thank you very much, Ali. Worthy of note for me is that the France Public Development Bank has the opportunity to support sports again. I mean, it signifies or signals some sense of return to pre-pandemic days in a way, if you like. Let's move on to the Western African headlines, where we get Bosin to help us do some analysis, especially of the April markets there as well, and any other headlines that he might want to have a go with. Access Bank hoists Nigeria's flag in South Africa. Grobank becomes Access Bank SA Limited. FBNHoldings and Nigeria shares were down yesterday by 1.35% on poor first quarter performance. Ardova Oil and Total Nigeria's quarterly earnings on the market streets there. Seplat sets 410 naira 24 kobo per dollar for the full year 2020 dividend payments. That's something to bring some money to investors again. April market, you have GSE, Ghana Stock Exchange, leading Africa by more than 16%. The BRVM Stock Exchange in Ivory Coast, 9.3%. Nigeria's Stock Exchange, 1.4% up. And of course, the private equity firm Uhuru raises $113 million for SMEs in West Africa. Bosun, you have the floor now.
Yes, thank you. Just some of these are already in the public domain, but it's just very interesting to note that the Grobank transforming into becoming the Access Bank of South Africa. This is the first time Nigeria is putting its green, white, green flag in South Africa's banking space with 100% wholly owned subsidiary. This is good news, as it can get. The two largest economies in Africa should have a whole lot more of this handshake within the financial services sector and in so many other areas. So we say congratulations to Access Bank of now Access Bank South Africa Limited. If they move on to list it on the JSE, will be an icing on the cake. Look forward to that if they can get that done as well. And I want to say this, not just opening branches or subsidiaries in other African states, but to get them listed on those exchanges. For example, if you have GT Bank in Rwanda, they should list it also there. Equity Bank from Kenya doing business with a wholly owned business in Congo DRC should also list in the SAMAC region securities exchange. That would be fantastic. We want to see more of that happen on the continent, so that you have more than one single listing, that your home listing you can list in other exchanges. And this should happen also for a few other companies like Dangote Cement, for example, doing business in Zambia, in Tanzania, in Ethiopia. These are very massive investments. The Zambia investment is about $350 million US. I tell you, if you put that $350 million on the Zimbabwe, on the Lusaka Stock Exchange, that's a huge liquidity that Dangote Cement will bring to the Lusaka Stock Exchange if it takes $250 million cement company, and put it on that exchange. So I think they should move ahead rather than just setting up branches or setting up subsidiaries or standalone. They should also move to set up on the exchanges in those countries as well. I think it's something we need to pursue on our end as a media communication people and see how this will happen. FBNHoldings numbers came in well, as soft as everyone will expect. Deposit went up, loans and advances went up, but impairment, loan loss expenses or provisioning came in very massive, by 36%. That depressed the numbers, and a few other things. Analysts are still poring over that. Ardova and Total earnings are also on the street. A very busy reporting season for us here in West Africa, as it were. Then of course, you have the Seplat story. That's just information for those of you who are shareholders. You can elicit to take your dividend in dollar, in pound sterling, or you can take it in naira. But finally, the report from Securities Africa yesterday was about the month of April performance of frontier African markets. The Ghana Stock Exchange was the best performing, 16%. The BRVM came 9.3%. Nigeria just managed 1.4%. The good news for Nigeria was that was the month in which he did his demutualization program, and now managed to escape the downturn in the month of March and eke out 1.4% in the month of April. That's good. What's the world doing in West Africa? I'm sure Ali may want to tell us about that.
Well then, thank you very much, Bosun. Let's move on to the Southern African headlines. MTN was up yesterday by 4.4%. That's an early Wednesday trading session. Year to date, moved higher, shot up to 54% on the news of fintech Steinhoff. We know that they're looking to sell off their mobile money platform. Steinhoff is eyeing 17.5 billion rand from Pepkor Limited IPO. Fund managers push Standard Bank on climate, May 27th AGM. April market again, we reviewed the month of April. Now markets across the Southern African end of things. The Zimbabwean Stock Exchange leads by 3.4%. Botswana Stock Exchange up 2.2%. Namibia DSI positive as well, 3.4% for the month of April. Zimbabwe now targeting an inflation settlement around 55% by the end of July, says the Monetary Policy Committee there of the Zimbabwean Reserve Bank. Ali will bring these headlines to you for your perspectives.
So let me start with this pretty interesting news coming out of MTN that they're looking to spin off the fintech business. I think this will create good value for shareholders. I think, a lot of shareholders find it difficult to value the telco, the data, and give a proper value to the fintech side of the business. So I think this is ahead of the curve. It will allow MTN to bring in other stakeholders who understand the fintech business better. I think that's why you got such a positive response, 4.4% early Wednesday. I was advocating that Safaricom should do the same with M-Pesa for a long time. And also we've seen Airtel Money look to spin out Airtel Money out of the Airtel Africa network. So I think what it's telling me is, if you want to play now in the fintech financial side of things and you're a telecom, you can't hang on to that business anymore. You've got to bring in more shareholders, you've got to bring in expertise, because the growth opportunity is there. But if you're running it on a telco schedule, you might be too slow, because it's a real sort of Joseph Schumpeter moment of disruption and change. And when these moments happen, they happen at speed, and you've got to capture those opportunities. So I think MTN is ahead of the African curve in terms of the telcos, in terms of the financial structuring that they're doing. And I think you're going to continue to see value added to that share price as it beefs up, as investors appreciate what they're doing. Steinhoff, of course, you'll remember the story of Steinhoff. It was quite a drama, quite a bunch of characters in there as well. But it looks as if they've come along the way, they've restructured the business a little bit, and now they're looking to this IPO for Pepkor. So I think on balance, it was a shopping tale, really, of when it came out. But it seems to me that the story continues to improve, and this IPO will be a significant step in the right direction. Fund managers pushing Standard Bank on climate. This is becoming more and more of an issue, particularly for those corporates in Africa whose shares are held in part by global fund managers. And, there's a quid pro quo. You get probably better price discovery, but you're getting much more ESG type pressure from your shareholders. Zimbabwe up 3.4%, BSE 2.2, underperforming South Africa, which is in the neighborhood, and underperforming Ghana, which we just spoke about, but reasonably steady. Zimbabwe inflation to settle at 55% in July. That's a big call because we're still in triple digits. But the move is happening, and it's just as exponential it was to the upside. You'll all remember we had to find all the zeros and learn the language of those enormous numbers. It can fall sharply as well. And I think, if I look at the inflation number, if I look at food production, the farm economy, and there's some reason for optimism, frankly, about Zimbabwe for those who like to take big risks for bigger rewards.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Ali. Bosun, I'll come to you with the markets and, of course, the South African headlines, because I know you are. I imagine if South Africa was a wife to Bosun, East Africa a wife to Bosun, North Africa a wife to Bosun, whose meal will you be eating right now?
I'm keen on. I'm bullish on all the markets in Africa. Essentially that's the whole idea of what we try to do here. What organizations such as Reach Frontiers Management is doing, and a whole lot of others, try to promote what we have, the continental markets, try to get folks to understand what we do, show up our indices, talk about the issuers, talk about the market participants, talk about the regulatory side of things, talk about the institutions that make the African continent tick, talk about investors, and showcase what we have. So it's all about that. But again, when you look at the month of April, like Ali said, the Zimbabwe came up with some of the readings in terms of the April market reading. Botswana managed about 2.2%. Namibia DSI was about 3.4%. I think we got a whole ranking there. Zimbabwe inflation at 55% in July, according to the Reserve Bank. Living interest rate unchanged at about 40%. Just a few days ago was anything there. But like as Ali said, Standard Bank is getting seriously pressured on the climate resolution. The second proposal has been rejected. We'll see how that goes, how that plays out on May 27. Well, just about 2 weeks more to see. But it's going to be a very interesting annual general meeting to watch.
Thank you very much, Bosun. Let's now move to the Northern African markets, where Morocco, Kenya lead Africa's renewable energy in 2020, says Ember Global reports. April market again for the northern part of Africa, Mardex leads by 4.3%. Tunisian Stock Exchange 2.88%. EGX, that's the Egyptian Stock Exchange, negative by 63 basis points. Misr Capital profit was up by more than 277% in 9 months of the full year 2020-2021. North Cairo Mills posts some 12.32 million Egyptian pounds loss for the 9 months to March. Unimed proposes dividend of 468 dinar per share. Let's start with your thoughts on these, Ali.
Let me touch on your main headline, which is the Morocco, Kenya, Africa's renewable energy in 2020. Look, we've got such an incredible renewable energy resource here in Kenya. We've got a geothermal resource, which is probably top 10 globally, if not the 6th. We've got solar, which most of Africa has. Kenya so far in terms of renewable energy is focused on geothermal, and it's served us well. We'll continue to develop that. There is a lot of availability still to be tapped. Morocco has made a big play on solar, and extremely successfully. So I think Morocco and Kenya are a lesson to other African countries to start looking at these resources, because one, they are now available for the national grid at a reasonable price, and it's also producing a much greener economy. So I'm all for it. KenGen, which is the main player in the geothermal space here in Kenya, has been expanding its footprint. It's in Ethiopia now, it's in Djibouti, again, looking at these geothermal resources. There's a tremendous amount of potential. We've seen a sharp slide in most of the prices for renewables, and I think it behoves our governments to start looking at it more aggressively. The challenge is for likes of Nigeria and Angola, who have a bigger dependency on oil, is that really they've got to start taking a 360 perspective on these things. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind with legacy energy at a time when the world is moving forward quite quickly.
Thank you very much, Ali, for those great analyses there. They really appreciated here on Frontier Africa Reports. Thanks a great deal. Ali Kansachu, the founder of Rich Frontiers Management based in Nairobi, Kenya. Unfortunately, we lost Bosin Amofaye's connection. Bosin Amofaye is our executive editor, but of course, we have actually come to the end of the show for today. This has been Frontier Opening Bell. Thank you for watching and thank you for being a part of it. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.